Just to be super clear, I didn't print any of these boats. Not one of them. This was the week where my house got filled to the brim with teeny tiny little boats, and I'm still not quite sure what happened. I'm trying to walk myself through the process, so let's maybe start at the beginning.
So it all started when Snapmaker sent me their newest printer, the U1, and they sent it to me for free. I don't think either of us knew what exactly we were getting ourselves into. So the U1 is what's called a toolchanger, which means it has 4 print heads, and it swaps between them in the middle of a print all by itself. Different colors, different materials, automatically. The whole idea is that it's hands-off. You press the print, you walk away, and it does the rest. So I tested it the way everyone tests a printer. I printed a Benchy. If you've never seen one, a Benchy is a little tugboat, and it's secretly designed as a torture test for your printer. That smooth curved hull, one big unsupported overhang. The chimney is 2 tiny concentric cylinders. If your printer's even slightly out of tune, they come out oval. The roof of the little cabin prints over open air, and every part of this boat is checking something. It's believed to be the most 3D printed object on Earth. Oh, and that's Poppins. She's watching the whole first print, start to finish. She's a border collie, and she has this habit of herding things together. Remotes, shoes, tennis balls, anything really, totally on brand for her. So on day 1 of receiving the printer, I came down to the workshop like I normally do and noticed the machine had printed a Benchy, which was a little weird. I figured I must have started a print the night before without knowing it. So I went about my day and didn't really think anything of it. Well, this was not a one-time thing because the next morning, there were 2 of them. And I want to be clear about the machine because this matters. This printer was fine. I checked everything and it was working perfectly. It had just been printing overnight on its own, and I had never initiated the print. It was weird. So the obvious move was to just unplug the machine, so that's what I did. I unplugged it. The next morning, it was plugged back in, and there were 3 boats this time, which was a real problem because printers don't plug themselves in. Somebody was doing this. So I figured I could solve the problem by getting rid of the fuel for the printer, which is filament, the plastic you feed your machine to print a design. Although technically the fuel for the printer is technically electricity the printer uses to make the design. If you disagree with my clearly flawed idea, please leave a comment down below, because if you don't, I swear I will make more logical mistakes in this video. So I took all the spools of filament off the machine and hid them in the cupboard. No filament, no boats, problem solved. The next morning, as I headed down to the workshop, I was a little off-put to see the 4 boats just sitting there on the build plate. And the filament had been reloaded on the printer? But if the filament was back on the printer, then what was in the... Oh yeah. It was time for a new plan. If I couldn't stop the printing, I could at least contain it. So I locked the workshop. The next morning started out like any other morning. I went to make myself some breakfast and... boats. More boats. The boats were not staying in the workshop anymore, and they weren't done with me. Then I had to go put on my shoes. Ow! And then I unlocked the workshop to put my tools away. I found out they had gotten there first. Every drawer, every single one. At this point, I stopped asking where they were coming from and started asking how many, because you can't fight what you can't measure. This is a boat scale. It measures how many tiny boats that you have. You weigh one boat, it does the math and tells you exactly how bad your boat's situation is. My boat situation is 351 boats to be exact, and that's how many have been printed so far. The print bed had never held more than a handful at a time, which meant they weren't just being printed, they were being moved. And here's where it got really interesting. It wasn't just the count was going up. The boats themselves were getting more intricate, more detailed, and more colorful. Each new batch had more color than the one before it, which meant the machine was changing tools in the middle of the print by itself dozens of times in the middle of the night. Whoever was doing it was getting better at it. I went over every inch of the machine looking for a malfunction, and there wasn't one. It levels itself, it swaps its own heads, and it runs all night without anyone touching it. The machine was doing everything right. And that's when it hit me. All this time I'd been focusing on the printer, I never realized that my computer, the thing sending the files, had been sitting there the whole time, totally unattended. And the only person with access to that computer was me. So I had to consider the possibility that maybe I was doing this to myself. Sleep printing, sabotaging myself. There was only one way to find out. So that night, I set up a security camera and pointed it at my own bed. So, the surveillance experiment did not get me any closer to who was printing the Benchys, but it did finally explain my rampant bedwetting problem. The next morning as I woke up, I realized the problem had hit a whole new level, and it was just getting bigger. I didn't print these. I got through the rest of the day, went to bed, and hoped the problem would somehow solve itself overnight. Then at 3 in the morning, I woke up to the familiar mechanical noise of the U1 doing some tool changes and printing, so I had to go investigate. As I creeped down the stairs, cracked open the door, looked in. Nope. My brain couldn't process what I'd just seen. My dog was using my laptop to 3D print boats, which also meant my dog had guessed my laptop password. Poppins is a border collie, by most measures the smartest working breed on the planet. Bred for hundreds of years to do one job, run a farm. She lives nowhere near a farm, and a working dog doesn't relax. She looks for work. The only job that she ever saw this household perform was printing a small plastic boat, and she watched me do it, start to finish, exactly once. And then I stopped, and then she took my job. And once you know that everything makes sense, she was the one who was plugging the machine back in. She was the one reloading the filament and the boats, in the cupboard, in the cereal, in my shoes, in the drawers, in my bed. She was doing what she always does with things. She was herding them together. So, no, the printer was not broken. A dog was printing boats. A dog was checking boats. A dog was organizing boats. She's a farm dog. She finally found her farm, and it happened to be a print farm. I probably should stop her, but I'm not going to. And credit where credit's due, the printer is so easy to use, a dog can use it. Let me be specific, a smart dog. If you have a bulldog, basset hound, or an Afghan hound, maybe start them on something simpler. And for those of you who love tiny Benchys, comment boat down below and I will ship you all of these 351 boats. They need a home, please. So mobilize your super smart dog, grab some dog treats, dispute that obviously fake charge for 200 chew toys from petco.com, and as always, let's make something awesome together.